I was the fat kid in elementary school.
I've lost somewhere in the neighborhood of about 75 pounds over the last year.
I will say, as soon as you started working with us full time, magically you dropped 75 pounds.
Adam's one of those fitness guys that's a CrossFitter, but he doesn't really talk about it.
It's like eating vegan, building a business, bringing it to market, all of those things. Those are very difficult endeavors. So my goal is that we make this where people are doing challenges together, building businesses together, encouraging one another, hiring each other, etc. All right, we're live for the very first episode of Product Market Fitness. Thank you all for listening, tuning in. Those of you who are subscribing just for the show, or maybe you subscribed to a previous show of ours and are now getting this in your feed. Either way, I'm grateful that you're here, and wanted to give you a little bit of an intro, a little bit of behind the scenes of why we're doing this show. I've got my producer, Jonny Gamet, with me, and he's going to really run the episode. But before we get to that, so quick rundown. Product Market Fitness, you've probably engaged with it. The idea here is we want to talk with people, host, foster conversations and discussions about how to perform highly when it comes to creating a product, building a service, bringing that service or product to market. And then, those two things kind of go hand in hand. But the third topic of how do you keep yourself fit? How do you pursue fitness when you're charging hard in other areas of life? And I mean, those are the three things. I think if we had to title this show all of the things we could, it could be like product, market, fitness, parenting, groceries, like there's so many responsibilities that so many people have. And so I'm sure we'll delve into different parts of that throughout the show, but that's kind of the heart behind it. I'm really excited about this. I've wanted to have something where I could talk about both sides of my interests, the business side, and also personally, people who know me know I just love fitness. I love talking about it. I love learning what other people are doing. I love doing it. And so this is really excited on a personal level for me. If you haven't gone to the website yet, it's productmarketfitness.substack.com. We'll have a dedicated URL shortly. It's just not resolving at the moment. So productmarketfitness.substack.com. And I encourage you to go there for two reasons. Number one, of course, you can subscribe to our newsletter that comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. One issue is more around a topic, and the second will be around that week's episode. And then the other thing is there's a tools page. And if you haven't seen that yet, I encourage you to go look at it. Right now, we have only two resources out. The first is an assessment where you can just give yourself a baseline on how you're doing in the areas of business, bringing that company to market, and fitness. And so I'd be curious if you take that, let me know and see if it's helpful for you. And then the second resource is a library of 75 workouts. And Jonny, did you look at that? The library?
I haven't looked at it yet, man. I was going to say, Adam's one of those fitness guys that's a CrossFitter, but he doesn't really talk about it. Not those annoying CrossFit people.
That was my goal, not to even say that word on here. It's like eating vegan. You have to talk about it, but the 75 workouts, there are definitely C-word workouts, but there are also, so the way I structured it is it's kind of like there's a foundational tab. If you've never really worked out or you're just getting started, there's, I think, about 10 workouts for you. If you're scaling up and you only have some equipment at home, there's 10 or 15 workouts for you. And then there's some specific pursuits. There's high rocks, there's hybrid training, so bodybuilding and running. There's lots of things like that. So it's an interesting resource, a cool resource. I'm working with a coach to provide that to the community, and definitely want people to be able to take advantage of it. So anyway, with all that being said, I've already alluded to you and talked to you, but Jonny, thanks for doing this first episode with us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Excited I'm normally kind of behind the scenes in the editing and those kinds of things. So it's nice to be in front of the camera for once.
Yeah. Jonny's our main head producer at Herd. And one of the reasons I thought it would be good for us to do this together so we can talk about why we're doing this show, but also you have obviously a pretty significant experience and story when it comes to pursuing your fitness alongside everything else you're doing. So I told you were going to interview me, but before we get to that, maybe you could just talk about what you've been through the last 24, 36 months.
Yeah, absolutely. As Adam mentioned, I've always kind of toyed around with fitness, but not one of those things where it was really a passion of mine. It was more of step on the scale and go to a doctor and realize, well, I need to probably do a little bit more cardio, a little bit more fitness, and make fitness a little bit more of a priority. So really, I would say about a year ago, year and a half ago now, started to really just feel bad all the time. Just physically wasn't where I needed to be, and went to a normal health checkup, physical checkup for insurance purposes and all those kinds of things, and saw some numbers in the blood work that was just not where I needed to be, especially for my age. I mean, I don't think I'm that old. And doctor had a pretty serious heart to heart with me and saying, like, if you continue down this path, you're really headed for some pretty serious health challenges. And so for me, I told my wife, and really I would attribute a lot of the success that I've had to her in her keeping me accountable and helping me in terms, especially of just the nutrition side of things. I think a lot of people, when they think about fitness, they think about the workout side of it. You know, I've got to run or I've got to lift or whatever program I'm going to get into. And really that nutritional aspect of it is probably like 80% or 90% of the struggle that most people face. And so really just started challenging myself to cut out a lot of the terrible food that I was eating, the processed foods, and the quantity of food that I think, especially as us as Americans, we like huge portions, we like a lot of food, and we like it all the time. And so, and then we wonder why the scale says the number that it does. And so for me, it was a lot of cutting back on a lot of those high processed, a lot of sugary things, both in drinks and in eating. And as a result, I've lost somewhere in the neighborhood of about 75 pounds over the last year.
It's crazy.
And feel much better. I mean, again, and fitness has really just become a passion of mine, and just in the sense of like, I enjoy doing it now. I look forward to whatever workout I'm doing that particular day. And yeah, so love to,
I mean, that's
I'm
a
not
small
a fitness
person.
expert, but yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
So it's been a journey, but it's been a fun one.
I don't yeah, unbelievable to have witnessed this. I mean, technically I had like a very front row seat. I remember I've told you this multiple times, but I don't remember. You didn't come across as having 75 pounds to lose when you would see Jonny in person, which I did, every day. But now when you compare pictures, and you've done this multiple times, from today versus however long ago, it's like two different people. You can't even believe that it's the same person. I will say, I don't take any credit for this in all seriousness. He did all of the work, and his wife is super helpful. I will say, as soon as you started working with us full time, magically,
That's right,
you dropped 75 pounds.
The pounds just started to come off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting little correlation there. But yeah, Jonny, I think we'll pepper in throughout the show, in the series, because he does have so much to say, or so much to add in terms of value with that experience. But anyway, I've talked enough. I told you were going to run this episode, so where should we go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest question that a lot of people would kind of the first question a lot of people would ask is, why are we doing this show? Why specifically in the realm of, a lot of people know the product market fit, but adding that fitness element to it. So maybe you and your expertise, especially for our newer audience, I think for those people that maybe, again, as you mentioned, were subscribers to another platform or another show that we had done. Why should they come to a platform like this or listen to a show like this?
Yeah, I think, a lot of it is just my personal interest. We've talked in our business. For those of you who don't know, we both work at Herd Media, where we spend a lot of our time helping founders and operators talk about what their product is, build messaging around what their product is, and then helping them bring that product to market. And so product market fit in business and in startups, is this common phrase around, do you have the right product? Do you have the right messaging? And is there a fit between what you're trying to sell and the people you're trying to sell it to? And I think that's a really valuable thing to talk about. But I think even more valuable, and something that as I've gotten older, I've realized more people care about, or at least are curious about, is blending that pursuit and all that comes with it. Because building a business, bringing it to market, all of those things, those are very difficult endeavors, and they can be very time consuming, and they can be all consuming. And similarly, pursuing fitness in an aggressive way can be all consuming. And so it's difficult to think of those two in balance and in relationship to one another. But I'm very grateful. I've met so many people, and a lot of them will be featured on the show, who have done a phenomenal job doing exactly that, balancing both their business and their fitness. And so it's kind of a long answer, but that was the curiosity that I had, and the reason I wanted to create the series.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think a lot of people, as they're building such great companies or great products, they kind of leave themselves in the rearview mirror. And that's why we see so many founders and so many people either have burnout from a mental perspective or burnout from a
Hmm.
physical perspective, because they put all this time and energy and effort into getting this thing off the ground that they forget to take care of themselves. And the bad part about that is you've done all the time and work, and you're not reaping the benefits yourself, because now you're in the pitfalls of health and challenges and all those kinds of things. And so I think it's good to talk about, while you're building such great products, don't forget about yourself in the process and taking care of yourself, because if you can't show up for your team, you're not going to be able to show up for your product or for your business. And so um, I guess, kind of transitioning from that, what are some of the things that, again, fitness is a big category, business is a big category. Maybe let's preview some of the types of voices that we're going to have in this series of people that are coming on.
Yeah, well, to piggyback off what you just said, I think the mental thing, you mentioned that briefly, but I think that's another thing that people often are looking for mental relief. Either they feel like their mental health isn't good, or they feel overly stressed out or over anxious. And obviously physical fitness is not the end all be all to that. There's a lot we could explore. But I do think it's a huge piece of it, and it can be a huge solution towards finding that mental health, that mental fitness, and some of that relief that comes, or that could come when you're pushing so hard in the work side. But yeah, in terms of the types of people that we're going to have on, so far we've got really a wide variety of folks, several who are fitness professionals themselves. So they're going to be coming on and giving people who are high performers um, lessons and strategies and tips and things that they do with their clients to help them perform. We've got several just high performers, folks who are building really incredible companies and burning the end, bleeding on the bleeding edge of fitness. So guys like Tom Rowland, who's built one of the largest outdoor brands in the world. He's going to be one of our very early guests, and is going to talk about how he built that brand and how he's pursued. I mean, Tom is, I don't want to say his age, I'm not sure, but he's older than I am, and would crush me in most workouts. So, just people that we can look up to in that sense. And then some others that are more focused on individual pursuits, maybe sustainability of both career and fitness, maybe going all out and trying to pursue a particular challenge, like a marathon or an ultra marathon, or a specific, CrossFit or High Rocks or whatever type of event. So the short answer is a really wide variety of people. But I think the common thread throughout will be they have some interest or expertise in both building a brand and building their fitness, and helping the fitness of others along the way.
Yeah. And I think, Adam, for those that are listening to this as well, I know you don't like to toot your own horn or pat yourself on the back, but this is something that you have experienced yourself, both in building your own brand, or the brand of Herd, and the company that we have the opportunity to work for, but also in your own fitness journey as well. So maybe you could talk just in the final couple minutes of this first episode here, just like, how did you get so passionate about this from your own entrepreneurial experience, and then when fitness became very important for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think fitness has been a big part of my life since I was the fat kid in elementary school that struggled on the racetrack or whatever. And but I loved sports, and so had to make a decision early on. Like, am I going to keep? I grew up in the Philadelphia area, so it was like, am I going to keep eating cheesesteaks and tasty cakes and soft pretzels and all that sort of thing, or am I going to make the basketball team in middle school? And that was really my first exposure. My mom is a multi marathoner and was a great example to me. But that just kind of carried through sports in high school, sports in college. And then once I graduated and started trying to work for, these companies that had big goals and pushed hard, it became clear to me like, okay, this is something I'm going to have to prioritize if I'm going to, have it, as a part of my life going on. And so got interested in marathons, ultra marathons, have done a few of those. And then like you mentioned earlier, I've really found that I just love and get a lot of joy out of, CrossFit and working out in a gym with other folks. And so that's become a regular part of my life. And, so that a lot of it, stems from there. Definitely trying to do some competitions and events and all those sorts of things and figure out how to pursue that performance edge of fitness. And at the same time, in full disclosure, and I wrote a newsletter about this the other day for those of you who are subscribers. This series is practicing what we preach at Herd, which is to say that if you have a business, if you have a voice, if you have really any sort of public facing entity, media is one of the three big points of leverage that you can use to grow that business. The other two Naval talks about are capital and code. I don't have a ton of capital just available to me. I definitely can't code. I failed basically geometry and algebra in high school. So that's not my thing. But media, I can talk, right? And we've obviously built this company over the last 8 years around building media. So we have some expertise there. And it's just something that, I wanted to dive into and feel very passionate about. And I'm super excited for what this can be. I think I've already had lots of conversations with people who are looking for community, looking for other people who are similarly minded and just want to have connection points. And so one of my big goals, and I'll say it right here, is that this show and this series is not a one-way conversation from like Adam and the guest to an audience or Adam to the audience. My goal is that we try to find ways to connect fibers within the community and make this where people are doing challenges together, building businesses together, encouraging one another, hiring each other, et cetera. And we have really like a kind of like a robust community that sort of develops. That's one of my goals and one of my prayers for where the show can go.
All right. Thanks, Adam. For those of you that want to join us in this journey, again, it's productmarketfitness.substack.com. You can follow along. We'll see you then.